What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here on Futbol Asada. I'm your host, Andre, here with my co-host, Chris.
What up, boys and girls?
As you guys can see from the title, we're going to be reacting to Mexico's friendly matches that have concluded. Before we get started, make sure to click the links down below to join our Discord, follow all of our socials, hit the like button, and hit the post notifications to know every time we post. And yeah, so overall, from these two friendlies as a whole, I guess, what are your instant reactions?
I would give the whole window like a B grade. Because the most important thing to get out of these friendlies was to see who is good enough and who's not. And El Vasco Aguirre pretty much tried everyone out, maybe except for Tapia, the goalie. Everyone got their chance, and I'm really happy to see that. We saw a lot of positives, like I'll say Jose Castillo in defense. He could play left back, center back, right back. I thought he was very good both games. Ramon Juarez was only there for one game. I thought he did very well. Elias Montiel, we hyped him up and we wanted to see him. And he actually played very well, gave a very good assist in the first game against Internacional to Rubalcaba to make it 2-0. And then we wanted to see Gil Mora. That was one of the most hyped things about this window. And we got to see him twice. And for a pretty good chunk, like the first game was only like 5 minutes, but he made an instant impact. He had a couple good plays. And then against River Plate, he had like 20-something minutes. You saw both Mora and Montiel sub in versus River Plate. We looked completely different. We were getting dominated probably the first 60, 70 minutes. They both sub in. Now we had the ball pretty much the whole time. We had like, I don't know how many corners in a row. Like we were just all over them. Another player I really liked was Jorge Rubalcaba. I don't see him like as a starter material on the A team, but I think he could be a very good super sub. Like I think his speed on the counter is deadly. I mean, you saw it against Internacional. Like that guy could have had a hat trick in the first half if he finished a little bit better. So I think we found like a lot of positives, like some players that we can take that we can integrate into the first team, and that was pretty much like all we really needed to see. Like the most important thing wasn't getting the win. Like the most important thing was seeing who can we get out of this to benefit the first team, basically. And I thought we did that, so I'll give it like a B.
I'm satisfied from these games. We predicted before these games started that we were not going to win any of these games, and we did end up winning one of them. So that was good to see. And like we kept saying in the preview video, we just want to see some new faces, see these young players get opportunities. And we saw that, and it's clear to see that Gilberto Mora and Elias Montiel, to me, are the two that stood out the most. Like, they could be in contention to be, like, in the first team. And I think Javier Aguirre did notice that. And hopefully these guys will continue to perform in their league. So in the future, they could go on to a better team, and we could see them in the first team by next year in the World Cup. I think it's possible they're that good. But overall, the two games as a whole, I was a bit disappointed with the River Plate game. Obviously, we lost. The first half, we were absolutely terrible. I think the midfield was heavily at fault, especially Jeremy Marquez. I think this guy, about 3 or 4 years ago, he should have been getting called up when Atlas were bicampeón. But him now at 24 years old, I get it, he's still young, but no, he's never going to play for this team again. I think his performance was pretty dreadful. The guy next to him, I don't even know who he is. I think he plays for Mazatlan. Also didn't stand out. And you see the instant impact. As soon as Mora and Montiel got subbed in, we kept the ball the entire time for those 20 minutes. That's exactly what we needed from the start, but it was too late by then. In the first game, we played very well. Did not expect that win. I think the defense was exceptional. Aguila from San Luis. Ramon Juarez, another player I believe could be in the first team, had a really good game against Internacional. And Jose Castillo, I'm pretty surprised with him as well. I watch him a lot at Chivas. And maybe he could be first team material, maybe off the bench. But I guess we have to see him more. But besides that, I think I'll give these two games like a B+.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be a little negative, I guess, I think we also saw a lot of players that are just not going to cut it, right? Like,
yeah.
The good thing is El Vasco noticed, because I'm pretty sure I read a quote saying that he pretty much said that I noticed that a lot of these players really aren't cut out for this.
I don't know if that was true. I have to find the video.
I saw it on Twitter. Again, I don't know if that's factually true, but like this guy is brutally honest, so I could see him saying that.
Yeah.
And if it is true, I think it's a positive. Players played bad, and if he noticed, that's a good thing, because then he won't ever call them up again. I think this window was like basically to see like who can we integrate into the first team and who just has no business being there. And I think he saw like a good chunk that like could make an impact. I'm not saying they need to be starters or anything, but I think they could be very good depth pieces. Like you said, Ramon Juarez, I don't know if he'd start on the first team, but he's a good depth piece. I mean, behind like Vasquez and Montes and maybe Chiquete, I wouldn't mind him being like the fourth option. Castillo, I mean, he's a good depth piece. He could play on the left,
anywhere,
center, right. Like he play anywhere. Like in case of injury, that's a good player to have. Like that type of player that can play any position. And like you said, I think the midfield is probably one of our like on the first team is probably one of our weakest positions. Like that 8 and attacking mid, like the 10 and the 8. And I think Mora and Montiel, they might be, despite being the youngest, they might be the closest to actually getting like becoming like starters on the first team. Like out of everyone from like this call up, even though they're the youngest, they might be the closest just because that position is our weakest, and they stood out to me the most. Like they made the biggest impact in both games, and that's a good thing. So I think overall it was a positive window. I mean, yeah, we didn't get the W in both games, but I think more importantly we got to see like who's cut out for this and who isn't.
Something I was very impressed with as well. I know you guys noticed the atmosphere in both of these games. It was good to see. Like even though it was friendlies, both of the Internacional and River Plate fans went all out. It made the game way more entertaining than I expected. So shout out to those fans. But two players I want to talk about are El Toro Guzman and Memo Martinez. I said this also in the preview video with El Toro Guzman. This guy, every time he starts for Mexico, I don't think he's won a game. He never performs to what I think he could be, and he continued to prove that yesterday against River Plate. He was not up to it yet again, and I think Ramon Juarez is more of a starter than him, to be honest. It used to be like Victor Guzman and Chiqueta as like the backup center backs, but I think Ramon Juarez is taking that spot. I think Victor Guzman just doesn't live up to it. Like I said, Memo Martinez, this guy should never be called up again. I think this should be the last time we see him. We have Santi Jimenez, Raul Jimenez, and Henry Martin fit right now, so there should be no point in this guy being in the Nations League roster. And not only that, this guy wasn't even a top 3 Mexican striker last season. Angel Sepulveda was better than him. So, and even after these 2 performances, he was dreadful, man. So I do not want to see him again. I think he's already 30 years old as well.
I agree with both of those points. I mean, Ramon Juarez, he's won a few titles in a row with America, and then now putting in good performances for the national team. Like, I think he has to, at this point, be above El Toro Guzman on the depth chart. And then Memo Martinez, I mean, he's probably never going to get called up ever again, and I don't mind it at all. I still can't believe this guy was playing in the Copa America for us, which is absolutely insane, like less than a year ago. But yeah, like right now, you could argue he's not even a top 5 Mexican striker. I mean, obviously we have Santi, Raul, like Henry, Sepulveda even. Like, this guy is, yeah. He doesn't need to be there anymore.
Let's say the Nations League roster is going to be announced tomorrow. Which players from this team could realistically be in that roster?
I already gave you the players that I liked, but I think the realistic ones would probably be Ramon Juarez for sure, Elias Montiel, and I really do think Gil Mora. I think they do have a chance because, like I said, that's like our weakest position. Like, yes, they're very young, but I think they were one of the standouts of this entire window. And we don't really have that much depth in that position on the first team. So, I mean, I could definitely see them getting called up. Obviously, they need to keep up their form for the next 2.5, 3 months before the Nations League in Liga MX to be considered. But I think they can do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think those 3 could have a high chance of being in the first team. With Mora, he just needs a lot more reps. He's not a consistent starter for Cholos because Juan Carlos Osorio doesn't like starting him in big games away from home because games are way more physical and the kid is still very small, so he has a couple years to grow still. Someone I want to talk about as well that I forgot is Santi Munoz. I think this is also a player we probably won't ever see get called up again. I think he lives off of a movie character, and yeah, because he did not show us anything. Well, what do you think?
His call up was basically because Mexico had no other option because he is not performing in Liga MX. He hasn't been for a while. He's not even playing for like Mexico U23s anymore. I didn't really pay too much attention to his call up, and then his performances didn't really show me anything either. That he won't. I can't see him being ever a realistic option to start for us up top, or even be an option off the bench. To be honest.
What about Efrain Alvarez?
I thought it was pretty good against Internacional. Yesterday, everyone kind of looked pretty bad.
He was a
until
ghost.
like around the 70th minute
Yeah.
against River Plate, but for the first game, he was pretty good. He's very creative. I mean, if he can keep up his form with Cholos, I think another maybe option off the bench.
As much as I like him, he's very inconsistent. He tends to be a ghost in many games. As we saw yesterday against River Plate, I had forgotten he even started the game. But there's days where he could be very good, like against Internacional, where he brings a lot of creativity. I don't see him as a first team option, though. I would have to ask for way too much of him at Cholos. So I think with those 3 players we named, we should be good. Any last comments then?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, these were just 2 like non-FIFA date friendlies. It wasn't like the end of the world if we lost, and it wasn't like the greatest thing in the world if we won. I think we saw what we needed to see, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think our next matches aren't until the Nations League, so plenty more content to come. The Nations League weekend is going to be huge, so I suggest you guys subscribe for the best Mexican football content. For those of you watching, let us know in the comments your thoughts from these friendlies. Who do you think stood out? Who do you think didn't stand out at all and shouldn't be called up anymore? Anything, we read all the comments. Hit the post notifications to know every time we post. Yeah, we'll catch you guys next week.